This is Democracy Watch. Mark, we've got breaking news here, and it's not good news, and that is that Texas has released their new map that was put forward at the request of Donald Trump, and it has 5 seats that would flip from Democratic control to Republican control. So I got to ask first and foremost, before we get into the details about the implications of what this means, is this legal? Will it stand up to legal scrutiny? Is it in compliance with the Voting Rights Act? Is there any legal exposure that they have by virtue of putting this plan forward?
Okay, so first of all, I want to caution everyone. The Republicans have a history of putting forward maps only at the last minute to actually put an even worse map forward. So this one's pretty terrible, right? This is the full 5 seats, which is the maximum that Donald Trump asked for, right? He originally was like 4 seats, maybe 5 seats. Well, Texas was all in for Donald Trump. So on your question about the legality, look, that is something that my team of lawyers right now and litigators are studying literally in real time as we're doing this video. My first read, just from my own look at it and some preliminary data, is that the map is vulnerable, that this will almost certainly lead to new litigation because of the impact it has on Latino voting strength. 4 of the districts look centered in largely Latino areas. So I would imagine that once that data is fully sorted through, and if this map is in fact the map that they put forward, and if in fact it is enacted, I expect you will see litigation either under Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act or under racial gerrymandering claims. And remember, it is the Republicans in Louisiana that are right now pitching to the U.S. Supreme Court a sort of anti-racial gerrymandering theory. And so, we'll see sort of, again, what the exact data demonstrates on whatever map they enact. But this is not going to be entirely smooth sailing. I suspect that the Republicans are going to slow walk this for as long as they can, making sure they get it enacted in time, because they're going to try to run the clock. And as you and I have talked in so many cases, not just involving redistricting, but also involving voting rights cases, oftentimes it is the clock rather than the law that winds up driving the outcome of what map is used.
Is that called the Purcell doctrine?
It is, in fact, yeah. And this this is basically that courts are loath to make changes or strike down maps or laws in close proximity to elections. And in the case of redistricting, because people have to run in the primary elections, the timetable for when Purcell kicks in is a little bit on the earlier side. We're not there yet, by the way. We're still in the non-election year. But that is something to keep our eye on, along with, what they do and what the legal claims are.
Well, they can't slow walk it too much because, to your exact point, we need to know what candidates are running in what districts. You can't have people announce for certain districts that don't exist yet or are going to change in the next map. And so inherently, don't we have to see maps put in place before it's too late to even have candidates announce and start running for office?
Oh, sure. And like I said, we're still in July of the off year. So I'm not suggesting we are up against any deadlines now. We're many, many months away from them. My point is that when you ask about the legal vulnerability of the map, right, there are a couple of different things. There's the question of how vulnerable is the map under state law? How vulnerable is it under federal law, the Voting Rights Act? How vulnerable might it be under the U.S. Constitution, either on a one-person, one-vote standard or for racial gerrymandering? And those are all things that, I can promise everyone, we will be studying very, very carefully. And Democracy Docket, my media outlet, will be reporting on as there's more information. But it is also the case that we've seen sometimes these cases move slowly, and the state of Texas and Republican AGs are experts at slowing everything down and then claiming it's too late, even though, like I said, that would be many months from now.
Right. Okay. So now let's talk about this idea of retaliation against what they're doing. I personally have been on the warpath about this and have been beating this drum for months now, which is, look, and I'm sure you're in the same boat as well, am vehemently against gerrymandering. I think that it's the most important thing that Democrats could do if and when they ever gain control again, is to pass H.R. 1, which includes a prohibition against partisan gerrymandering or any gerrymandering. But with that said, we know that Republicans are going to engage in this because that prohibition doesn't exist, and they are engaging in it all across the country, Utah, North Carolina, Wisconsin, Florida. I mean, like, you name the state that they control and they will do it. And of course, now they're looking to do it in Missouri and Texas, and there's a raft of other states that are on the table as well. And so in the instance where we don't have some nationwide prohibition against gerrymandering, what do you think that Democrats should do, given the attacks that Republicans are waging against democracy right now?
Look, I was for Democrats playing by the same rules in redistricting and gerrymandering before it was cool. Like I like you favored HR 1, the Freedom to Vote Act, the For the People Act. These would have banned partisan gerrymandering across the country. There are a myriad of other proposals that would essentially have the same results, and I'm in favor of those things. But what you cannot have is a world in which every Republican-controlled state engages in the most obscene form, the most grotesque form of gerrymandering. And that's what we're seeing in Texas, right? Texas was already a gerrymandered state. Florida is already a gerrymandered state. Ohio is already a gerrymandered state. Missouri is already a gerrymandered state. So when we hear that those states are going to reopen their maps, what they're actually saying is they're going to take obscene gerrymanders and make them more grotesque. And so you cannot have a world in which one party feels like they can do that and it is entirely costless. It is entirely, without consequence. And on the other side, a party that says, well, we need to live by legislative standards that we propose that have been blocked from going into law because Republicans refused to support them. That's right. Every Democrat in the U.S. House of Representatives voted for the Freedom to Vote Act, the For the People Act. Every single Republican voted against it.
Yeah.
Imagine in your mind who is the most pro-voting Republican you have in mind. They opposed this provision. So the law that would have banned this. So like that's been my position for some time now. It is now more in vogue, I'll say, than it was, maybe 2 years ago when I was basically saying this. And I think that's a good thing.
What do you think that Democratic governors should do with the states that we have that could serve as weapons for us? I mean, I've spoken with Gavin Newsom. Obviously, he's all in on this. Just a couple of days ago, I spoke with Governor Pritzker in Illinois. He all but said that every option was on the table as well. But we have other weapons. We have New York. We have New Jersey. We have Maryland. And so even when we go on the offense, it so often feels like we're just doing some tit for tat, and it doesn't even feel like it's full offense. So do you have any recommendations for what the full breadth of governors should do in this country on the Democratic side to actually fight hard enough that it actually feels like a deterrent from what Republicans are looking to do?
Yeah, look, Republicans don't care about democracy. Republicans support Donald Trump because he's an authoritarian. And they will abuse every norm. They will violate every tradition. They will seek to weaponize every law, every practice, everything that they can in order to gain power for the sake of having power. And they are not going to be deterred from doing that if they, turn a grotesque map into an obscene map in Texas and our response is, okay, well, we found, 4 or 5 seats of our own. They will take that as a win, right? Because they've done what they want. And then, as you say, they will move on to Missouri. They'll move on to Florida. They'll move on to Ohio. They will move on to Utah. They will move on to, wherever will be their next place. And they will not be deterred. What we need to do is we need to recognize that if we want to stop the slide of democracy, we as Democrats, we as people in the pro-democracy movement need to tell them that if they take 5 seats, we're going to put 30 seats on the table. Right? Because they need to understand that there will not just be parity if things go against them, but actually if they guess wrong and this winds up escalating, they could wind up on the severe losing side. So when people say to me, don't bring a knife to a gunfight, I don't even want to bring a gun to a gunfight. I want to bring something more than a gun to the gunfight, right? I want to bring missiles to the gunfight. I want to bring hand grenades to the gunfight because I want the other side to understand that not only are we going to fight as hard as them, but we are going to fight smarter than them. And we're going to fight harder than them. Now, we follow the law, we follow the Constitution, and we operate in a pro-democracy frame. But I think that anyone who thinks that a pro-democracy frame means that we cede to Republicans the abuse of the gerrymandering, of their gerrymandering. We cede to Republicans their weaponizing the Department of Justice. We cede to Republicans Donald Trump seizing control of elections, doesn't understand what it means to preserve and protect democracy. There will come a day, I hope, in my lifetime and your lifetime, when we can de-escalate from this, when we can take a step back from this, and we can pass meaningful legislation to prevent partisan gerrymandering. But until that day, we are not promoting the cause of democracy by letting the other side fight harder than we are, with more tools than we are, or even where our only threat back is that we will match them.
Yeah. I could not have said that better. Highly recommend for everybody who's watching right now. Clearly, as Marc just put on full display, this is the kind of voice that we need to elevate in this digital media ecosystem. If you are not yet subscribed to Democracy Docket's YouTube channel, that's the channel that Marc started to focus on everything voting in elections on YouTube, please make sure to subscribe. It doesn't cost anything, but it's a great way to support his work. I'll put that link right here on the screen and also in the post description of this video. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
I'm Marc Elias.
This is Democracy Watch.